Welcome back to Houston Life. With summer in the review, kids might have a hard time getting back to their routines, especially if they're starting a new school, becoming an independent sixth grader, or stepping into high school. Those are all intimidating things.
And big changes, right, for our young people. So there are some things parents can do to help make that difference in their lives. Here are the expert tips. Evan.
Track over those summer months, over big breaks. So practice that routine. But we got a short amount of time now because most kids are going back this week, if not the following week. But a homework zone, you got to get the home ready. Kids who are late elementary school, entering middle school, high school, certainly in college, they're gonna come back and they have homework. And so where are you gonna do that? So set up that zone at home. It's that's huge, and we can talk all you want about that. But
what makes a good homework zone, Evan? What would you say? Because we all have, as professionals, we need our office, we need our computer to do our work. But what's a good homework zone for middle school or high school or an elementary kid?
Sure. So we know a lot more now than we did before. We know that kids need to come out of their bedrooms. One of two things happen if they stay in their bedrooms. Our parents have been training us since we were infants to be tired when we're around our bedrooms. So kids might not realize it, but their retention, ability to recall and then regurgitate that information later goes down tremendously if they're in their bedrooms. They're tired, they might not realize it. The other thing that can happen is, kids start untraining themselves to be tired when they're in their bedrooms. And when that happens, then they do all this wonderful work. They feel like they beat the system, and then all of a sudden they can't go to sleep. And we could do a whole other segment just on the importance of sleep. It's so important. And so come out of the bedroom. They need to have snacks and supplies, not just the pens, pencils, highlighters, etc., but calculator, hole puncher, stapler, plenty of water, anything that keeps them in that room. These visual timers are amazing. They're blessed by teacher organizations, more and more research. It's a visual timer where kids can see the time elapsing.
Oh, fun. Okay.
And it helps with focus, helps stay engaged. It helps prevent issues where you get stuck on a problem for 45 minutes and your homework takes a lot longer than it should. So that homework zone and having the right supplies around you and being in the right place, natural light suppresses that production of melatonin back here so you're not fighting yourself. Create that homework zone at home, more important than you think.
Okay, so outside the bedroom, before we move on though, so the homework zone, what if there's not a home office or a dedicated space in the home where it's quiet and undisturbed? Is a kitchen table okay? Is, the backyard okay?
Kitchen table, breakfast table. What's interesting is we understand that we need a quiet place to be able to focus, right? But interestingly, if it's too quiet, that can be distracting too. So actually, the dining room table is a great place to do work. You need a solid internet connection, lots of plugs. You seem to need devices for everything these days, right? And so those are fine places. And even if you have to do work in the bedroom, make sure your back is to your bed, so at least it's not in your vision, and you're still near some natural light, and that will help if you don't have a choice.
Okay, good points.
Yeah, don't fall asleep doing your homework like I used to do. Oops. Okay, and also, what about goal setting? You said this is important for kids. I mean, goal setting, I think of that as, a very adult, mature thing, but we should be telling our kids, hey, what do you want to achieve? Is that right?
We have to be going somewhere, right? So we need to reflect on the last year. We need to look at those teacher comments, reread those. If they said we need to work on writing, we need to work on preparedness for class, we need to work on turning homework in on time, right? Let's set some meaningful objective goals. I love the SMART goal system. You Google that, you'll find 10 million results. And it's really a roadmap of how to set meaningful goals that are time-bound and objective, right? If you just set a goal of, hey, I want to meet more people, well, what is more? Is that 3? Is that 10 in a month, over the semester, right? So setting meaningful goals, that SMART goal system is really great. And so reflect on the last year, set meaningful goals, and then all that's meaningless if you don't revisit those goals. So it's really important every few weeks to revisit those goals, make sure you're headed in the right direction.
Is it okay for parents to provide incentives for their children? Like, hey, if you meet this goal, we will do this for you.
That's great. We do have a special superpower as parents to provide incentives for kids. I call that synthetic motivation, right? Okay. So if for kids who are internally motivated, some they just do their homework, it feels good to have it done, et cetera. But what about those kids who need that external motivation? That front part of the brain here, this frontal cortex, is not fully developed yet. It's not till mid to late 20s, maybe even early 30s for guys. And so we have to create that as parents. And so the way we can do that is with incentives. But you can't do, hey, I'll give you $10 for your grades at the end of the year. That's too far out. Kids are really in the right now. So you got to think you can have that friend over this weekend. You can pick where we go to dinner on Saturday, right? You can get a little bit of extra access to your device on the weekend, or something that's meaningful to them.
Okay. Speaking of devices, sometimes kids, I used to have a big binder with different folders and things like that, but they're more switching to Chromebooks. How important is organization for digital and physical?
So physical organization
Supplies,
is still really important. Binders, I say they just got smaller, right? So there's a growing amount of work that never sees paper. So binders are still important. Something happens when kids are looking at middle school and high school and they start to have specialists, 6, 7, 8 different teachers. Something happens where they say, I got to separate my classwork from my homework, from my notes, from my quizzes, tests, labs, handouts, worksheets, etc. And so that's great, but you don't need a separate binder for every class. It's not realistic to juggle 6, 7, 8 different binders. So we've developed a wonderful system. I think you have some images here where it feels like every class has its own binder, but you have these subsections to separate the different types of work. But what's really important now is the growing amount of digital work, and we don't do a good enough job of thinking about that enough.
It's such a good point.
So those are the computers, right? Some schools are Microsoft schools, Google schools, whether it's Microsoft OneDrive or Google Drive. Set up a folder for every class. Most of those systems will let you color code those folders actually on your computer. Subfolders, name your files meaningfully, set up little shortcuts in your web browser and bookmarks for your school portals and those things that you need to be checking daily, and check your email daily. Teachers are now sending things that are so important, and if you miss it, you're in trouble.
Wow.
Yeah, staying digitally organized is so important. It also sets your young person up for success in their adult life. Evan Weinberger, thanks so much for stopping by Houston Life.
Hey, thanks for having me. Anytime.
Very, very
Appreciate
helpful.
it.
By the way, there is access to a free digital guide. Evan's company so kindly provided us with that link. It will be online on our website, HoustonLife.tv. There you can also connect with Evan and download the free back-to-school guide he had mentioned.
Yeah, sounds good.
Y'all
Great
are awesome.
resource.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thanks again.
Happy back to school, everybody.